Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Real. My name is Alex, and today we'll be talking about Loki. So, as per usual, spoilers ahead, and I'll be talking freely about Loki. So, this episode of Loki pretty much picks up where the last one ended. Uh, as per usual, we get Loki with Boss Lady, whose name I can never remember, but it starts with an R, and they have this conversation about what exactly can happen. But of course, they're just stalling for time, so Sylvie prunes herself so she can meet back up with Loki. And then Loki meets other Lokis, and they're in this place which is essentially a dumping ground for all the stuff that is being reset in all these other timelines. And honestly, it was pretty cool. This place realm that they're in is just littered with like Easter eggs. Like there, of course, probably the biggest one is probably the Thanos copter. Um, we get this big version of Yellow Jacket's head or helmet. We get the shield helicarriers. We get Ronan's ship. We get Frog Thor at some point. But the ones that I liked the most, other than Frog Thor, I really like that one. But the ones that I liked the most was probably the stuff that's considered like urban legends or myths, which would be the USS Elridge and Polybius, because I like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Even if I don't believe them, I still like to listen to them. And those are like some of the really famous ones. So it was interesting and funny to see that they were included in this episode as part of uh, this dumping ground and stuff that was reset by the TVA. But anyways, in this episode, we get a bunch of Lokis, which is kind of weird because that also makes me question like, why is it a bunch of Lokis? Because Mobius is there, but literally everyone else that we see, with the exception of the crew on the USS Elridge, everyone else is pretty much just Loki. So that's kind of weird. Uh, I don't know if that's going to be important for later, but yeah, everyone is pretty much a Loki. And then we get, and then of course we get the main focus is on our Loki, Kid Loki, and Classic Loki. And Classic Loki is played by Richard E. Grant, and to me at least, he completely stood out the most to me, because it's Richard E. Grant. Like, how can you not love this guy? He has a huge body of work, and he just gave a master class in acting. And I don't think that we should, that's not something that we should just, look over, because literally, uh, we can just talk about the story, but we need to talk about Richard E. Grant as Classic Loki. I swear, like, I really liked his introduction. I really liked that's the scene when they're in the bowling alley and he's feeding alligator Loki and he's telling his own story of his timeline and pretty much the development of his character in that story, about how he decided to just basically remove himself from everyone, and just raw emotion that he showed whenever he was talking about how he missed Thor and he missed everyone and he wondered if people missed him. Like, I was like, golly, man, this guy's good. But of course, we already knew that because it's Richard E. Grant. But anyways, he completely stole the show at the end when it's his whole scene where he makes the false uh, clone of Asgard, you know, and then just the music and seeing him smile and his tears whenever he knows what's coming and he's like glorious purpose, that completely stole the episode for me. But but yeah, I feel like I kind of got off topic. But yeah, Richard E. Grant was the total MVP of this episode. But anyways, we also get Kid Loki, who, in my opinion, didn't. Well, he was okay. Uh, oh, and he's considered like king there, so that was interesting. And also, there's an alligator Loki, which may or may not be a Loki. So I thought that was kind of funny. But anyways, um, the big thing about this episode is I want to see what happens in the next episode, which I believe is a finale. So I can come back to this episode because I feel like there's a lot of the story told in this episode just through dialogue. Because of course, for example, Mobius, whenever he speaks to classic Loki, when they're at the campfire, and he's like, "There's a lot." He basically they have this talk about how like people can change, and eventually that leads to classic Loki going on to do his heroic thing at the end of the episode. And of course, also the whole thing with um, when they're fighting, I forget the name of the purple smoke monster, um, Alarai or whatever. Um, because in the episode, when they show the USS Elridge, he basically just goes right through them. So, and then that goes into Sylvie whenever Sylvie's like basically reinforcing the fact that they can't just fight it head on like Loki wants to. That at the end, whenever they have to enchant it, that's pretty much that scene alone reinforces her plan, and that's what causes them to be like, all right, yeah, we have to do it this way. So I feel like there's a lot of the stuff that we could pick up in this episode from dialogue like that. Even when Boss Lady goes to talk to Hunter B-15, she's locked up. And Hunter B-15 is like, she's like, I need to know what you found out from Sylvie, the Loki variant, which referring to Sylvie. And she's like, yeah, going based on revenge, and she's not doing this because she wants to. She's doing this because she has to. And then we also kind of get the hint that Boss Lady wasn't too sure about the timekeepers being fake. So there's that at least. And also, it kind of also seems like she kind of wants to figure out who's behind all this as well. But it kind of seems like she doesn't want the TVA to just go away, because it seems like she's still trying to, keep the TVA going. That's what I got through her from this episode. So fast forwarding to the big question as to who's behind this, because whenever Sylvie first arrives in their little wasteland, she has this like quick vision, and then they build on that at the end whenever they enchant the. Like I said, I can't pronounce the name. I forgot it. Alarith or whatever. And then, yeah. So they enchant him, her, thing, whatever. They enchant it, and then it looks like it just disappeared. But, they were right that was basically a guard dog. And then once they get past it, there's this little portal, and it's the castle on an asteroid that they talked about. And not only that, like, you see this ridge that kind of reminded me of in Asgard, where Heimdall's at, how the water just goes like off the waterfall. That's kind of what it reminded me of. That's what the visual effect looked like. Just that flipped upside down with all these colors. So I'm wondering if that's them. That's supposed to be the visualization of the sacred timeline. But it still makes me wonder, like, who's behind all this. Because now I'm thinking, the main thing that people think is that it's Kang the Conqueror. But now that we're getting further, like, I'm not completely sure that it is, because earlier I feel like Kang the Conqueror would be tying into Ant-Man, and I know like I've talked about that where this is gonna tie into Ant-Man and all that, but or it might tie into Ant-Man and all that, but now I'm thinking like WandaVision was supposed to set things up, but in the end, WandaVision was its own little was in its own little bubble. You know, it didn't quite go in directly into what we assumed would be Doctor Strange or the next Spider-Man film. So I'm starting to believe that maybe in the end, this is just going to be a pretty much a setup of it being uh, Boss Lady, of course, Boss Lady, or maybe Miss Minutes. I don't know, because Miss Minutes being a program, I could see that that could just be a self-aware program that just runs itself. Because yeah, it could even just be another Loki variant who escaped and just stayed there, reigned over his kingdom, and pretty much became the ruler of that. Because I mean, like it's like they said in an earlier episode, expect the expected. And since everyone in that wasteland is essentially a Loki, like it kind of makes me wonder, like why would why are there so many Lokis? It could just be that Loki hunting other Lokis because Loki, as we saw, it's that they said that every time they're trying to better themselves, that something always happens to stop that. So maybe it's just because somewhere they captured a Loki and that Loki hadn't fully developed or grown like these other ones that have came to see what they can be. And this Loki was like, I have to be the superior Loki. Like, of course, it always has to be. So they just started getting rid of the other Lokis, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of what I got from it. Or that's just a thought that I can get from it. And I don't know. I I couldn't really fully digest this episode because I've already seen it twice, but I still feel like we're gonna get a lot from the next episode that's gonna explain or gonna be a payoff to some of the dialogue in this episode. And oh yeah, and then of course, because in the end we get Mobius going back to the TVA, saying that he's gonna tell everyone what's happening. So I don't know if he's gonna be able to or what that is gonna mean for him, but yeah, this was a real cliffhanger ending. And what if this whole thing just ends on a cliffhanger? I don't know, but yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. And I've been enjoying it so far, so I'm excited. All right, so that's it. This has been Beyond the Real. My name's Alex. And of course, as always, be good to yourself, love yourself, because of course, you, like these Lokis, have a glorious purpose. So, with all that being said, I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.